It's terrible of you to invite me on a day like this. Your mother would be saddened.
But we won't be able to see each other for a while. And during this time, I can forget about sad things, right?
On the day of the mother's funeral, peeking into the family waiting room, I saw my husband and sister entwined naked.
Even if it's just for now, I'll help you forget your sorrow.
I feel sorry for Nancy.
Though I couldn't see their faces, I sensed a faint laughter in my sister's words.
It's fine. She's strong. Besides, compared to Amy, she'll look ugly no matter how she cries.
Hey, she's still my sister, you know.
I couldn't forgive the quietly laughing pair and was about to open the sliding door with my smartphone in hand. But my hand stopped dead at the next words my sister uttered. Surely it's a lie, isn't it? I felt my anger, trembling hands, and the pounding of my heart all rapidly quiet down. I'll never forgive her. Just as when I came in, I quietly left the waiting room. I had no doubt about what I was about to do. Even if my sister's life ends, I won't care one bit. No matter what happens from now on, I'll never forgive my sister for the rest of my life. I'm Nancy, 25 years old. I work in product development at a cosmetics company, a job I've been interested in and find very fulfilling. Last year, I married my boyfriend of 4 years, Jason. We met as classmates in the university tennis club.
Why did you choose this club, Nancy? There was another tennis club, wasn't there?
Oh, I heard the other one focused more on drinking. I probably wouldn't get along with people who prefer that kind of thing. Plus, I just wanted to enjoy playing tennis.
Really? Me too. I'm not naturally social, so I struggle with socializing.
We happened to sit next to each other at the freshman orientation the year after we enrolled. Jason seemed nervous talking to women, and without an opportunity like that, we might not have spoken until graduation. It was rare for me to find someone who I got along so well. After that day, we started talking and playing tennis together, and eventually, our relationship developed. I was Jason's first girlfriend, and I had a feeling I understood why he hadn't had a girlfriend before. Jason, you're tall and not bad looking, so why don't you pay more attention to fashion?
Huh? I'm just not interested in fashion. As long as I can wear it, anything's fine with me. I don't care what others say.
Despite his anything goes attitude, Jason was honestly quite uncool. After we started dating, we went shopping together, and I even introduced him to my favorite hair salon to replace his self-cut hair. At over 180 centimeters tall, Jason instantly became a more presentable and handsome guy. Occasionally, there were girls who showed interest in Jason, but his introverted nature kept them at bay, and our relationship continued smoothly. About 2 years into my career working in a company, my husband proposed to me. At a restaurant overlooking the city lights, he casually took out the ring.
Will you marry me?
His proper way of proposing, against all odds, felt so genuine to him, and I was delighted. However, there was one concern I had about getting married: my 2 years older sister, Amy. Throughout my life, Amy had ridiculed and belittled every friend or partner I brought home, labeling them as uncool. Bringing my fiancé home would surely lead to another unpleasant experience. I felt weighed down by this thought. Perhaps Amy and I were just too different. Amy had inherited our mother's cute, doe-eyed idol-like features, and she associated herself with bright and flashy companions. On the other hand, I resembled my father, with single eyelids and a clean-cut face. A fair-skinned, bespectacled girl with a penchant for science. Although we shared similar heights and body types, the impressions we left were polar opposites.
Nancy, when you grow up, consider getting double eyelid surgery. Your face doesn't even suit cute clothes.
Leave me alone. I'm not bothered by it.
You really aren't cute at all. Your face and personality are just too harsh.
Being constantly ridiculed by Amy about my appearance since childhood, our relationship had soured long ago, even as early as elementary school. Amy's cunning was in her ability to cloak her insults in jokes, making it sound light-hearted even to our parents. But if she were to say such things in front of my husband, to dispel the dark thoughts, I called my parents with a cheerful voice. When we visited our parents to announce our marriage, my sister Amy, who had been married for 3 years, eagerly awaited us. Of course, her husband Justin was there too. Amy and Justin lived near Justin's parents, just an hour away by bullet train.
I'm Jason. I've been dating Nancy. I promise to make Nancy happy. Nice to meet you.
Hey, Jason, no need to be so nervous. We won't eat you up or anything.
Yeah. We're just grateful you're marrying Nancy.
From the first greeting, my parents burst into laughter at my husband's nervousness, and the atmosphere remained lively and enjoyable throughout. My husband, dressed in a suit with his hair neatly styled, looked fantastic and handsome, even to me, his longtime partner.
Jason, what do you do for work?
Oh, I'm a systems engineer.
Wow, really? That's cool.
In a rare display, Amy showed kindness to my fiancé, who I had brought home. Though she had always belittled and ridiculed the friends and partners I brought home. Well, to be fair, my husband today is tall, handsome, and super attractive. Seeing the gleam in Amy's eyes, I felt a sense of superiority for the first time. Looking back, maybe the countdown to the end had already begun from that moment. Even if you say you're a systems something, it's all Greek to you, right, sis?
Oh, come on. Nancy always makes fun of me. But seriously, I have no idea about the system thing.
Oh, sorry. Even I don't understand. What kind of job is it?
Father and Justin were also laughing heartily, and my husband seemed to be enjoying himself throughout. My parents had a great relationship, the ideal couple for me. I hoped that one day we could be a couple like them. In the evening, as my sister and her husband were about to leave, we decided to have dinner together on the way to the station.
Hey, once the wedding settles down, how about the 4 of us go on a trip together? Maybe next summer. What do you think, Justin?
It was the first time my sister had invited me on a trip. Perhaps she had matured during the time we had grown distant after getting married.
Sure, that sounds good. If our schedules align, I would love to. I'd be happy if we could get along as families from now on.
Yeah, sure. Justin was a kind person with a slightly chubby and gentle demeanor. Honestly, I was surprised when he first came to greet us. It might be rude to say, but he wasn't the type one had expected my sister to be with. It made me realize that love and marriage are indeed different things, which I oddly found myself accepting. I had thought that as we grew older, our relationship with my sister would improve, but that was a big mistake. After getting married, we planned to spend our first New Year's holiday at my parents-in-law's house and then visit my parents on the 3rd. My sister had come home for the New Year's on the 2nd, but it seemed Justin had to leave early due to prior commitments.
Hey, since we're all together, let's go for lunch.
Leaving our parents, who had already had lunch, we headed to a nearby restaurant with just the 3 of us. As we approached the restaurant, even though it was the 3rd, it was still bustling with people.
It's crowded. Let's stick together.
Saying that, my sister linked her arm with her husband's. In that instant, I noticed my husband's face blush. It was our neighbor despite the crowd, so getting separated wouldn't be an issue.
It's nice being tall. Feels reassuring having you next to me.
My irritation flared up hearing my sister's cutesy voice, but I didn't want to ruin the New Year's mood, so I kept quiet. In the end, my sister kept clinging to my husband's arm from the restaurant until we got home. Also, I was irritated by my husband's lovesick expression. When we got home, my mother was busy preparing for relatives who were coming over in the afternoon.
Hey, can you come shopping with me? I want to buy souvenirs for my husband. And look, things might be on sale after New Year's.
Sure. Nancy, what about you?
Wanting to help my busy mother since I was home, I declined. I'll stay. Sis, we have relatives coming over soon, so come back soon.
Got it. I'll borrow Jason for a bit.
Grinning, my sister took my husband's arm and left. Seeing my sister like that, even my mother smiled wryly.
Looks like she got herself a cute little brother.
Although my mother said that, my sister's behavior looked more like that of a lover than a sibling. For the next 3 hours, my sister didn't return, taking my husband along with her. They became suddenly close, and even after returning, they kept chatting together, glued to each other. What irritated me the most was what my husband said in the car on the way back.
Amy is really cute, isn't she?
I never expected to be so irritated right after the New Year's. It made me think I never wanted to return home for New Year's again. In the early spring, when I had almost forgotten about it, my sister called.
Hey, how about a trip with the 4 of us this summer?
It was the same invitation I had received before getting married. In an instant, the unpleasant memories of New Year's came flooding back. As I stayed silent, the voice on the other end of the line changed to Justin's.
Since it's also a celebration for your marriage, I'll cover the travel expenses this time. Nancy, is there anywhere you'd like to go?
Unable to refuse when Justin said that, we ended up going on an overnight hot trip. I believe my sister married Justin because he worked for a top-tier company. Yes, Justin is wealthy, including his family. They have no children yet, and despite being in their late 20s, my sister quit her job immediately after marriage and became a homemaker.
Since I only have one younger sister, I'm so happy to have a cute little brother like Jason.
I wonder if she thinks calling him a brother is some sort of excuse. During the trip, my sister held hands with my husband and linked arms with him.
Justin, look. When I stand next to Jason, don't I look like a child?
My sister, skipping around excitedly, and my troubled-looking husband walked ahead of my husband and me. When we arrived at the inn and wanted to relax, to my disbelief, my sister had booked a room for 4 people. In the evening, after drinking alcohol, she leaned on her husband, getting tipsy this time. What irritated me the most was how happy my husband looked. Hey, sis. Don't cling to Jason so much. It's disrespectful to Justin too.
Oh, are you jealous? Nancy, you have your cute side too. Couples should get along like us, right, Justin?
Though I wanted to yell, my sister was clinging to Justin too, displaying their closeness as a couple. My sister was a genius at making me irritated, and there was no other way to put it. When I expressed my dissatisfaction to my husband at home,
I can't be rude to Nancy's big sister. It's really troublesome.
He said, wearing a troubled yet slightly amused expression. There was a swirling mass of blackness, a murky feeling inside me that wouldn't dissipate easily. Now I clearly understand that women's intuition was at play, but back then, it wasn't so clear. My mother had an accident just over a year after we got married. I received a call from my father while at work.
Your mother had an accident. She's in critical condition.
His voice trembled on the other end of the line. Mother had gone on a trip with her close relative since yesterday. The relative, who was driving, also suffered severe injuries, including her chest. They had managed to return close by and were taken to a hospital in the city. To stay by my mother's side, my sister returned home to take care of things instead of my father.
You must be worried, Nancy. I'll take care of things at home, so you can stay with your mother as much as possible.
Thank you. Until my mother regains consciousness, I'll go to the hospital right after work. My husband's kindness and affection supported my anxious heart. I truly felt grateful for being married at that moment. However, 5 days later, our hopes were shattered. My mother passed away without regaining consciousness till the end.
Why did she have to go before me? I wish I could have at least said thank you before leaving.
Unable to accept reality, my father didn't cry out loud. He simply held my mother's hand quietly. His sorrowful demeanor prevented me from crying out loud as well. Instead, I quietly wiped away my tears. My sister wailed loudly beside me, seemingly crying for both of us. In place of my absent-minded father, I took charge of arranging the funeral. It was sudden, so we decided to have a small funeral with only close relatives at a nearby funeral home. After the wake the next day, my father, sister, my husband, and I stayed overnight at the funeral home to spend the last night with my mother. My sister's husband went home once and returned the next morning with his parents for the farewell ceremony.
It still feels like a lie that she's gone.
Yeah, she told us she'd bring back souvenirs from the trip just the other day. We spent the last night with my mother, being careful not to let the incense burn out. The bereaved family room where we stayed had a space with a sofa and a table upon opening the door, and there was a room in the back. Although there were 4 beds, my father wouldn't lie down.
I feel kind of sick. Maybe it's because I haven't slept since yesterday. I'll go get some fresh air outside.
Huh? It's dangerous to go out alone at this time of night. Nancy, I'll accompany Amy. Please take care of your father.
Got it. Take care of my sister, please. That day, our family was the only one holding a wake at the funeral home. After the staff left, it truly felt like it was just us. When my husband and sister left, the already quiet funeral home seemed even quieter. They returned about 2 hours later, bringing warm soup from the convenience store. The next morning, after having a light breakfast and getting ready, there was still about an hour and a half until the 10 o'clock start time. While the staff began preparations, my father, like last night, sat blankly next to my mother's portrait, lost in thought. We were supposed to have a final coordination meeting with the funeral director soon. I had intended for my sister to join as well, but she was nowhere to be found. I wandered through the venue, but neither my sister nor her husband were there. Had she fallen ill again? With a sense of dread, I decided to peek into the waiting room. As I reached for the doorknob, I heard a strange sound like a cat's cry from the inside, sending shivers down my spine. My heart began to race. As I slowly turned the doorknob, I realized it was locked from the inside. Could it be? I had been holding onto the key to the waiting room, which I had arranged for the funeral. I gently inserted the key into the lock and turned it silently. The lock clicked open, but the strange noise persisted from within. Sneaking into the waiting room, I noticed the door was slightly ajar, about 10 centimeters.
Amy.
My husband's voice came from beyond the door, causing my heart to leap. I knew logically it was my sister with him. Still, part of me hoped it was Justin, arriving early. Why is this happening? Despite feeling faint, I managed to slip out quietly. After taking a slow, deep breath, I decided to try filming with my smartphone. Peering through the crack in the door, I saw my husband and sister entwined, their lower bodies exposed.
It's cruel of you to tempt me on a day like this. Your mother would be saddened.
My husband said.
But we won't see each other for a while. Besides, won't this help us forget our sorrows?
My sister replied. Even though the funeral is about to begin, the sight of my sister, acting affectionately towards my husband, disgusted me to the core.
Even now, I'll make you forget your sorrows.
My husband said.
I feel sorry for Nancy.
my sister said. Though I couldn't see their faces, I sensed a hint of laughter in my sister's words. The thought of them being together last night made my chest tighten.
It's fine. She's tough. Besides, compared to Amy, even if she cries, she looks ugly.
My husband remarked.
Hey. She's still my sister, you know.
My sister retorted. My husband's words pierced through my trusting heart. Unable to bear their whispered laughter, I decided to swing the door wide open. Just as I was about to lower my smartphone, my sister's next words froze me in place.
But we must thank Mom. We got to spend 5 days together. I wish she could have held on a little longer.
My sister said.
Your mother was on our side. From now on, pretend to worry about your father and come home.
My husband suggested.
Hee, Jason is such a bad guy.
My sister chuckled. Was my mother's accident merely a stroke of luck for them? Was my husband's kindness, which supported me at that time, just a lie for their tryst? The anger, trembling in my hands, and the pounding of my heart, all suddenly quieted down. I would never forgive them. As I left the waiting room, I heard my sister's pleading voice from behind.
One more time.
I had no doubts about what I was going to do next. I wouldn't care if my sister's life ended here. No matter what happens in the future, I will never forgive her for the rest of my life. As I left the waiting room, I immediately headed towards my father. The family of the relative who had the accident with my mother was already there beside him. I whispered to my father, deciding to have the extended family join us in the waiting room. As we headed there, the elevator doors opened, and Justin's family and my husband's parents came together.
Nancy, are you okay? We came early in case you needed help.
My mother-in-law said. Surrounded by such kind people, I felt saddened. Thank you. I apologize for calling you all here so soon. I quickly explained the situation, and all our relatives quietly entered the waiting room. Then, with both hands, I forcefully pushed open the door. Bang! The door swung open but recoiled slightly. Though they were both wearing clothes, they were frozen in an embrace on the messy bed. I addressed my husband with a cold gaze. Hey, Jason, what are you doing? My husband panicked, breaking away from my sister and standing up. Among the relatives behind me, I saw the shock on my parents' faces.
No, this is.
My sister stammered.
I wasn't. I felt sick, and Jason was just comforting me.
Yeah, that's right. Amy, she's been feeling unwell since yesterday.
My husband added. Both my sister and husband were desperate, knowing that not only their partners but also their parents and relatives were present.
Nancy, you seem to have misunderstood something. Jason was just taking care of me. I simply took advantage of his kindness. If I misled you, I apologize. I'm sorry.
My sister said. Perhaps because they couldn't fully grasp the situation, everyone's brows furrowed in confusion. Even on the day of our mother's funeral, it seemed unbelievable to them that such a thing would happen.
It's understandable that this situation could be misunderstood. But Nancy, surely you wouldn't cheat on such a day, right?
My father-in-law's words were met with nods of agreement from Justin's parents. Seeing this, my sister's expression relaxed slightly.
I'm truly sorry. I see Jason as my dear little brother. Nancy must have been jealous of our close relationship and thought it was cheating.
My sister explained, her lips curling up in confidence. My father, standing next to me, put his hand on my shoulder. So, it's my misunderstanding.
Exactly. Who would do something like that on the day of our mother's funeral? That's absurd.
My sister said, her face displaying a hint of relief. Then explain this misunderstanding. I said, playing the video of the two of them entangled, with the sound of suppressed cat-like cries echoing.
Stop it. Nancy, stop it right now.
My sister screamed. When I stopped the video, Justin rushed over from behind and grabbed my sister's collar forcefully. My sister's face turned pale instantly.
Justin, this isn't what it looks like. There's been a mistake. Nancy, please explain.
My sister pleaded desperately, seeking help from me. I couldn't fathom why she thought I would help her. Since Justin turned his face towards us, I shrugged my shoulders. Heaving a big sigh, Justin released my sister's grip, although he must have wanted to hit her.
I've tolerated your selfishness before, but seducing your sister's husband crosses the line. Especially on the day of our mother's funeral? Despicable.
Justin stated firmly.
Justin, it's not like that. I was shocked about Mom and lost my senses. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I'm done with you. Let's divorce.
My sister collapsed weakly on the spot. At that moment, I pressed the play button on the video again. It was the scene I couldn't forgive. The conversation between my sister and my husband played out.
But we must thank Mom. We got to spend 5 days together. I wish she could have held on a little longer.
My sister said.
Your mother was on our side. From now on, pretend to worry about your father and come home.
My husband replied. I felt my father's hand, which was holding my shoulder, tighten. He let go of my shoulder and approached my sister in silence. With a swift motion, he slapped her across the face. And he slapped her face. Though it was a slap, my sister, who was sitting, was sent sprawling onto the floor.
What nonsense about being shocked and losing your senses. I won't allow someone like you to attend Mom's funeral. Get out now.
My father's angry voice resounded, and at the same time, my husband was sent flying through the air by a blow from my father-in-law.
Dad, no, it's not like that. I'm sorry. Please, forgive me. Please let me stay. I'll apologize to Mom.
My sister cried and pleaded, but my father silenced her with another slap across the face. Sobbing and begging, my sister collapsed onto the bed, unable to articulate anything coherent. My husband kneeled beside her, also bowing in apology, but both were dragged outside by the relatives.
Nancy, please, I was just invited by your sister. Help me.
Incredibly, my husband reached out to me for help even at this moment. I felt nothing but disgust at his audacity. I coldly pushed him away with emotionless words. Don't touch me with your filthy hands. Anyone else have to leave. Shocked by my words, my husband stood there with his mouth half open, before being dragged away. From beyond the door, my sister's voice could be heard crying, Mom. But no one paid attention as we all walked towards the funeral hall, leaving them behind. After that, my husband and I got divorced. With a swollen face from crying, my husband was forced by my parents-in-law to sign the divorce papers without any word. The settlement amount, exceeding the usual compensation, was paid in a lump sum by my in-laws without involving a lawyer. From now on, it seems that all his salary will be managed by his parents until the repayment to them is complete. My sister's marriage also ended immediately after that incident. She seemed unable to resist my father's words of not bringing any more shame upon the family. Having never heard my gentle father raise his voice, it must have been shocking for her to experience his anger. Although my father covered the settlement amount as a parental responsibility, he didn't allow my sister to return to our family home. The once leisurely life of my sister, who had been a carefree housewife living off Justin's money, changed drastically. To repay our father, she started working part-time during the day and taking on night shifts as well. I understand why she's working tirelessly, juggling both day and night jobs, to pay off the debt as quickly as possible. Right now, she doesn't know how else to apologize to our father. Despite her continuous attempts to contact me, I've been ignoring her calls and messages. She can't even apologize to our mother by offering prayers at the family altar or her resting place, as she hasn't been informed about it. This is probably the hardest punishment for her. We want her to live with regret for the rest of her life, knowing that we won't forgive her. As for me, I've returned to our family home and am spending peaceful days with my father. Lately, visiting places filled with memories of my mother seems to bring solace to him. Even after our mother's passing, my parents remain the ideal couple to me. While I'm dedicated to my work now, I hope to find a wonderful partner someday. This is Linda, the narrator for today's reading. Well, what can I say about this story? Her sister and her husband are just the worst, aren't they? I mean, there are some things in this world that sorry just can't fix, you know? I think they should spend their whole lives carrying that guilt. What did you all think about this story? Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments section.